today what I'm going to run through kind of quick is just some safety stuff. I know we've kind of alluded to some of this stuff, and I apologize. This was a presentation I gave a little while ago, and I haven't modified it for the class here yet, but bear with me. It was another presentation. And we're just going to go through some basic safety operations of the equipment, stuff that we're going to require of you guys out in the field, and things we just kind of want to get your mind thinking to that capacity. I have been fortunate enough to be involved in a lot of different UAV operations all over, mostly North America, and I've seen everything happen, including to myself. I actually almost lost my finger. It was split completely in two here. Luckily it was straight down instead of sideways, because I would have lost my finger, or at least the tip of my finger there, and that was due. It was my own fault. There was we were doing some programming and some stuff with a pretty powerful UAV system with the propellers still on it, and it powered up, and my first reaction was to kind of tackle it and pull the battery, and I took one of the blades right through my finger. So among other places on my body, I got pretty cut up. So these things are powerful, and they, in a lot of what we're using here in the classroom, they're not at that level, but there is still potential to get cut, or your eyes are obviously super sensitive areas, and so there's just some safety involved. There's also some behind-the-scenes safety that we're going to go through as far as like proper care and maintenance, just making sure that we're keeping things where they should be and at what levels they should be, because obviously most of what we're dealing with here is all battery driven, and we'll go into that a little bit, but there's some safety involved there as well. Safety first is the key here, really. I know it's going to get kind of like, geez, do we really need to? But I'm telling you, in this class, especially with all the eyes and ears that we have on us, we have to do it. It's just a part of it, and you'll get so quick and good at it, you won't even notice you're doing it, and it's simple. So yeah, here's just some funny pictures. I like the guy up on the left with all the propane tanks on his little scooter there.
They're empty.
Yeah. And then just one of the things, just remember that the whole point of this is you guys are in control. I mean, yeah, there's some ways to do some autonomous missions and such. That's for a later kind of down the line. But right now, I mean, this is your control center right here. I mean, you have full control of the aircraft. Obviously, there's situations that could arise where mechanical issues come up and you might not have control, but hopefully if we've taken all the steps that we're going to kind of lay out, that our risk is managed to the point where if that happens, yeah, we might lose an aircraft and whatever, but nobody's going to get hurt and nothing major is going to come of it. Yeah, and remember, these aren't toys. In this world here, these are professional pieces of equipment. So at home, I would suggest treat them as professional as well, but I mean, ultimately, you can do what you want at home for the most part. But that being said, is one of the things that Sean and I are trying to instill on you guys is being advocates of the community, the UAV community, drone community. So as we've talked about, and as our poll shows or kind of leads to, is that really there's a lot of public perception that's going a lot of different ways right now, and if you guys can be positive advocates of this technology, I would assume you guys are all interested in doing so because you're all sitting here today, that goes a long way. So if you can take the 5 minutes of your time to explain something to somebody about the aircraft and what it's utilized for, and that you're not just trying to like spy on your neighbors or whatever it may be, I mean, that's going to go a long ways in the community. Some quick things we'll cover. It's how to check your aircraft prior to flight, websites that you can look for weather and other advisories, how to contact your local FAA tower. When I say FAA tower, those are the towers that control airplanes landing and taking off. Safety items and equipment to have at the flying site, powering up your aircraft and equipment. We'll kind of briefly touch on that because we'll go in much more detail as we go through the class. Proper control functionality check, basic flight characteristics, basics of initially learning to fly, what to do in an emergency, understanding features of your aircraft, most efficient, fastest, or safest ways of capturing your data, how to safely land and power down the equipment, and how to properly stow your aircraft and batteries, etc. There's no dumb questions. If you have a question, just let me know right away. We'll deal with it. I'm try and fire through this pretty quick. So I have some kind of funny videos. You guys can laugh and goof around. I don't know if there's sound to this one. Yeah. This one's funny. So that's just like a phantom. You guys all get really familiar with that soon. And obviously this guy has a problem with it. So that, I mean, I don't know all the everything that went on here, but obviously, that guy, it looks like at the beach, and oops, sorry, that's not the right button there. And that guy's there. I don't know the circumstances involved, but again, it goes back to what I talked about as being an advocate of the technology. If that guy was pissed for whatever reason, okay, move down the street a little ways, get out of his way, or maybe take 5 minutes and tell him what you're up to instead of just, man, hey, I don't know. Maybe these guys tried, they could have totally done it. But as somebody who's flown these things in a lot of different environments, actually a lot of times I have somebody standing next to me if it's in a public area, and that person's job is solely to answer questions and deal with public, because they come up, people are super interested in this stuff and they want to know all about it. And while I'm operating it, I have to concentrate on what I'm doing. And it puts me in a really awkward situation because I don't want to be mean to you. I want to answer your questions and deal with you, but I have to be safe and operate this equipment. And so anyways, it's just speaking to, again, being a positive advocate of the technology. Some of the things we check when we go through the equipment it's just the basic overall condition of the equipment. I can go through every one of these items, but it's just going to be stuff that you're gonna intuitively over time look at and say, hey, look, that prop looks dinged, it looks cracked, whatever it may be. Obviously, we want everything we put in the air. We want at least the opportunity to think that everything is good to go. That may not actually be the case. You're not probably going to catch every single thing that goes on. But that being said, another thing that we're going to teach you guys is about just responsibility of the aircraft, right? So the way I like to do things, and I think Sean and I are on board with it, and luckily we have a lot of people here, but essentially you break it, you own it. You're not going to get in trouble for it, but we need to know. And you're not going to get in trouble at all. We understand that. But if something's going on with any of the equipment, let us know so we can fix it, so it doesn't just get thrown back into a box somewhere and the next time we go out we have an issue. Not only is that a safety issue, but also it's just a pain in the ass for everybody, because now we got some equipment that doesn't work. So anytime you see something, let us know, and or fix it yourself. At the end of this, you guys should be more than capable of doing a lot of this basic equipment all on your own.
Right, and along those lines, we'll probably have to assess in a couple weeks, because our $10,000 equipment gift thing that's coming down to us of returned merchandise is coming down, and I don't think we're going to build that into the class. But if you guys want to help with our research team to sort of pull those things apart, look at different stuff, it's a great opportunity to begin to get some more experience in the context of the safety, going through how do I check the propellers, how do I check that this is, the frame is good, all that kind of stuff. So a unique opportunity to pull apart a bunch of units will be in a few weeks.
Yeah, if Sean didn't tell you, he knows more than I do, but essentially we're getting donated a bunch of equipment. It's all kind of been broken at some point or another, so all the condition is questionable. So essentially we have all this pieces of equipment, and with the quantity that they're giving us, we should be able to actually put together some units that are, totally good to go, and quite a few of them from what I understand. So as we go through this, one of the things I really want to harp on is battery. I guess my job here in this whole environment really is the safety side of things. And again, I apologize for kind of being like a Nazi on that level, but I've seen it happen, and it can cause a lot of problems. Batteries, they're lithium polymer batteries. Does anyone know a little bit about lithium polymer batteries? So, I'm sorry, Dan, right? Dan was saying that he built a multi-rotor. His first one was like nickel metal hydride or NiCad batteries. NiCad batteries. So those are the old school batteries that you put in your TV remote control. The AA, AAA. Those are NiCad or nickel metal hydride or similar design, and they have some limitations to them as far as power and longevity. Whereas lithium polymer batteries came out, and they're for the size that they have that are available to them and the weight that's involved, they're extremely powerful. Essentially, they pack a lot bigger punch in a smaller package, and they don't have as many issues with charging cycles and things like that. It used to be, old phones and such. If you charged them so many times, the battery it wouldn't charge any longer. Lipos, they have problems on their own, but that's one of the positives of Lipo. For the most part, you don't have those issues. But the major issue that come with Lipos is fire. These things, like I said, they're super powerful in a tiny little box, and they have the potential for fires. Not only the obvious potential when you crash an aircraft, but also charging, when you're charging them, or just storage of them. So that's one thing we're going to be really careful on, is just maintaining these batteries properly. Sorry. I got to turn that off. Hang on one second.
Old technology.
Yeah. So we'll go through some stuff about but it's just basic overall condition. If you see them, they'll puff up, they get really puffy. That's like that looks like it just looks abnormal. That's an indication that there's something wrong with the battery. If there's cracks on them, there's something wrong. All of these things in here. Moving forward, here's another great video. Yeah, this guy's seen them all.
It's recording. Hold it still and we'll see if it does any shimmying.
It's okay. It wasn't that expensive.
All right. So I'm not going to say anything here, but tell me some safety issues that you might have seen in that. Sorry, that wasn't part of your video. I got to move on to the next one here. I think I got to let it play. So we saw the aircraft sitting there, and then what happened, right?
It's not his fault, but it should be out in the middle of the field the first time he's doing it.
Okay, well, exactly. I mean, we don't know. We can presume, and if you hear some of the video, we can presume that he's doing some testing and whatever else. So yeah, maybe not in your driveway is the best thing. But what happened right after the crash? Go ahead.
The girl went to go pick it up right
Picked
away.
it up. Yeah, right away. Just like it was no big deal. Go ahead.
He wasn't aware that there was somebody standing right there. She was about the same height that the drone.
Sure, yeah, she was really close to where that thing came in, right? So yeah, he said something about testing. Yeah, so there's a whole backstory to this, and actually, funny enough, I gave this presentation at a few different places, and I showed that video, and that guy was in my class. Yeah, and so he stood up and tried to he actually works for DJI, which is the company that that aircraft was. So it was pretty evident that he was trying to cover up some of this stuff. I just said, hey, look, that doesn't matter. But my point still stands, right? Which are two things you guys both picked out. One is you have an aircraft that just suffered a catastrophic failure. It went kaboom. We already just talked about there's a big battery in there. There's props that are all jacked up and spinning around. The last thing you want to do is walk right up to it and pick it up, okay? You're going to assess the situation first. We're going to take a half a second and look and see what's going on before we put our hands on it. Secondarily, yeah, that lady probably shouldn't have been that close. I mean, she kind of looked like she was back behind the bushes there. And I mean, to their credit, right, obviously he didn't think it was probably going to do what it did. But again, these are all things that we can modify, that kind of stuff, so that we potentially don't have an issue. And I'm going to teach you in a testing environment how we could have tested that aircraft completely safe and found out that there was a potential problem before we even initialized it with props. There's ways that easily do it on the ground without the props involved to know, for the most part, what's going on with that aircraft. So anyways, that was just something I wanted to point out. Going into some stuff, we want to check weather. That's going to be a big thing, whether we're going to be able to fly or not. Is it raining? Is it windy? What's going on? And then we want to know our airspace. That's that's kind of the big thing. In all reality, all the stuff we talk about with the FAA and our authorization to fly, it all has to deal with this right here, these zones, all right? And knowing where we can fly and can't fly, okay? We obviously don't want to be in an area where we have manned aircraft coming and going. That being said, if you follow there's rules, there's ways to fly in certain areas and to notify the towers or manned aircraft that, hey, we're going to be in this area, we're going to be flying from 10:30 to 14:30, and we're going to be under 150 feet, and blah blah blah, and we'll let them know where we're at, and they'll let us know if there's issues or not. So again, we don't need to go through all the details, just making you aware of these are some of the procedures that we will go through later in the field. Some other field equipment, all kinds of stuff, but one of the key ones is fire extinguisher, especially in the environments that we're working here, coastal chaparral. Obviously, you know that fire is a big danger in California, and we don't want to cause a forest fire or anything of that nature. So having a fire extinguisher or a couple of them with us is key. Also, just take a look at your surroundings. I've done stuff where I just have like a bag of sand or something so that you can dump on it. Lipo, when they catch fire, it's a very violent fire. You'll see a video here in a minute. It's not like a little, twig on fire. It goes crazy. So I've actually personally burned the crap out of my hands. And I had a fire in my house, and I would have lost my house had I not been home to put out the fire. So I was very lucky in that sense.
Water doesn't extinguish it, right?
Water will extinguish it. Yes. The problem is it's a power source, right? So it's not like a like magnesium or whatever where it creates its own oxygen. But what happens is it has its own power. So you got the fire triangle, right? You need ignition, you need fuel, and you need oxygen. And so you can take away any of those and it'll dissipate. But the issue is that the heat, right, the ignition is always there until the battery is no longer. So that's part of the problem is that, in most of our environments, we always have oxygen. And so if you have the heat and the ignition side of it and the fuel, then it's hard to get out. But yeah, I've smothered them before and I've put water on them. They will go out. So, but smothering is the best from my experience. Some of the other things that we'll have, caution tape, safety vests. We're going to require that you guys, when we're doing aircraft operations, I think Sean has some, they're dorky safety vests, but it is what it is. Just throw them on, no big deal. And again, it all gets back to being identifiable. So people know who we are, what we're up to.
And one thing that we talked about last year that we didn't implement, but we'll probably implement this year, is are these mobile sawhorses that'll have signs. We're doing training that's not so much important, but especially when we start to do data collection, that have a little blurb about what we're doing. So in addition to having a person that can answer a question, that's the first point of contact, that people don't think you're some Yahoo random person illegally there or not appropriate, but that it gives some level of officialness to the activity, and have our website and stuff on there. So if people wanted to go check later, they could. And then if they still want to talk to us, that's where we get into with Todd's spotters and stuff. But yeah,
sure. And then the last thing is it's pretty standard for any type of field work, right? We want to have an emergency plan. Let's say someone does get hurt or bit by a rattlesnake or whatever it may be. We need to know where the medical facilities are and or how we're going to get that individual to or from whatever location. And it's super key because we get fixated on doing the project, and sometimes we omit those little details that could really help somebody in the long term, and communications too. Obviously certain places we might be, you don't have cell service or whatever, and that just is what it is. But if we can make sure we have a cell phone, radio, whatever we need to communicate with somebody. And again, most of this stuff's all because I've had it happen firsthand and had to deal with it, and it's a pain in the ass. This is more about just aircraft in the field. How do we start up the aircraft? How do we initialize, deinitialize, checking to make sure that everything is operational as we would like. I tailored a lot of this towards the Phantom, which is just kind of a standard product that you guys probably all know about now. Yeah, there's essentially a lot of checks and balances we can put in place to know right off the bat that something's right or not right. And then we either fix it or we call off whatever data collection we're going to be doing for the day because it's just not worth it. But this whole unit is designed to give you information. It's got blinky lights, and it's telling you stuff all the time. Hey, I have GPS signal. No, I don't have GPS signal. Oh, my compass isn't working correctly. All of these things, there's little indicators that tell you this, and then we don't lose an aircraft and somebody doesn't get potentially hurt or whatever else. Here's another video. So, tell me what happens in this video. Some of you might have seen it. After the fact, you guys can tell me what you think happened. So I'll set the stage. Obviously, we got a nice shot. Somebody's filming and having fun with their Phantom here. And there's the guy. There's the guy in control. He pointed himself out there. Oh, you might not be able to see him. He's way up there. But watch what starts happening. What's that? No. He's on the beach. You just can't quite see him. There he is. See him way up there? What's he start doing? Hang on. You'll see. All right, this one's one of my favorite videos. You guys see it? Yeah, he's running pretty fast, huh? This thing, it's just a beautiful shot. And this guy's hauling ass. So, okay, here he goes. He puts something down, I think the transmitter. He's emptying his pockets. I think he throws his cell phone like right here or something. Yep, there's his cell phone. Uh-oh, here he goes. Got it. Yeah. And then he gets pounded. So he's happy. He caught it. So what do you think happened there? Battery loss of life? Okay. Anybody else too? Auto landing? Yeah. So there's a few things that could have potentially occurred. And if you get it dark, you can actually see the lights blinking. Like you can see a little bit of a reflection of a red light. And I know it's a Phantom, and it had a GoPro on it. And so, anyways, that red light is an indicator that it's clicked into what we call Failsafe mode. Because the majority of the stuff that we're going to be flying for data capture has GPS, and we have this. They all have integrated fail-safes, they call them. Which essentially means that when the GPS, or if there's an issue with the aircraft, it's designed, depending on how you have it set up, to either come back and land at a certain place that you've designated, or potentially just land all on its own. And so in this case, it looked like what happened was the failsafe was just to drop straight down. The other thing is it could have been, they also have now these smart batteries and everything, so it knows, hey, look, I'm out of battery, I got to get my ass on the ground. So it actually starts to bring itself down. So that's the other possibility as well. But there's some key indicators that this individual obviously overlooked, and this would have never happened. Obviously, it's a great video, and I'm thankful that he did it, but it's, there's ways to have made sure that didn't happen. Another thing we're going to have you guys put together, I think, is a flight operations checklist, okay? This is one from 3D Robotics for one of their aircraft, and essentially you're going to take all the information that we're giving you now, and we're going to make our own checklist. We did this last year, and we utilized it. And Sean's got a cool idea too.
So last year we did this. We'll do it again. So you guys can take the suggested ones and put it in the language that's going to be most helpful to you for different platforms. But this was, I thought, a great idea. This is not that we want to have things dangling around our neck when we're doing stuff, but at least when you're getting ready, having this guy around, and this is sort of a general pre-flight safety check, but having these things always at the ready. With checklists, there you go, see? There's the man. There's a lot of arrogance that many of our community have. So for example, medical doctors say, I don't need that checklist stuff. That's for stupid pilots, that's for stupid this and that. A recent study, for example, having surgeons use a pre-surgery checklist radically improved the patient treatment. And so this has nothing to do with being stupid or whatever. This has to do with making sure the first 5 times you're going to be great. 6, 7 times you're going to be great. Then you're going to start to get cocky. Then you're going to start to get familiar with this, and oh yeah, this is So these types of things force us to make sure, did I check the propeller? Did I? So really key.
I'll show you the number one reason why you have that, and I've seen it and I've done it personally hundreds of times. Well, I don't know about hundreds, but a lot of times, is everything checks out, good to go, you're flying, everything's great, and then somebody goes, did you turn the camera on? And then everybody's like, shit. We gotta bring it down and turn the camera on. And it's just like so simple. Obviously everybody knows we gotta turn the camera on, but we didn't go through the checklist, and we put the aircraft in the air, and now we just wasted a battery for nothing. These are again indicators of, this is for the Phantom.
I want you to memorize that, too.
Yeah. Again, it looks like a bunch of garbage, but you'll get familiar with it real quick. Trust me, it's not that hard. The Phantom, and a lot of these products now that we're trying to utilize, they're pretty user-friendly off the bat. It takes a little bit of time, but once you take a little time, you're like, yeah, this makes sense after that. I mean, that's kind of where we're putting a lot of the products that we're going to be utilizing in your hands. We're not going to the military grade high-end stuff. For one, we can't afford it. Two, to be straightforward, my own personal opinion, it doesn't work worth a damn compared to some of the stuff that's right off the shelf for what we need. I'm not saying it doesn't have applications, but for what we need, some of this off-the-shelf stuff is really, really good. And Sean and I are working hard to make sure you guys get some good products, and we have some leads, and hoping that we're going to get more and more stuff for you guys to utilize. Takeoff, we kind of went over this with the simulators, but everything is based around a transmitter similar to this. You have 2 main gimbals, right? These sticks these control everything right here, right? So the way we're going to set it up, everything's going to be the same. Sorry if you have other prior, knowledge, but I would say 99% of people here in the U.S. that I've ever ran into fly all with the transmitter set up this identical way, which is essentially this side of the transmitter, depending on what you're operating, but we'll just go for airplanes right now. But that is your throttle control, so up and down, left and right is your rudder control, and then over here you have your elevator control up and down, and then your aileron control up and down. So when I say elevator and aileron, elevator is this part of the aircraft back here. All right, it tips up and down. It makes the nose of the airplane either go up or go down. And these are ailerons. This rolls the aircraft either left or right. So that's, and then rudder. There's no rudder on this plane. So rudder would turn these stabilizers left or right. And rudder in the helicopter world is very important. In the airplane world, it's important, but you can actually fly for the majority of what you do and not even touch the rudder. In fact, that plane doesn't even have a rudder. So, and there's all kinds of stuff we can do too to help. Remember how I told you earlier, like, hey, if you're flying through the simulators and it's like easy breezy for you, let me know because I can make it more difficult. And I'm not trying to like, what do I want to say? I'm not trying to make you feel like you're not good. That's not the point. I'm just trying to say that a lot of what we're flying now, it has computerized systems in it that essentially do a lot of the work for you. And our goal is that when you leave this class, you know how to manually operate all these aircraft. You don't need to rely on a computer to do it. Now, the reason for that is because it's our own fail-safe system. 99% of the time, again, these aircraft are going to fly for you, but let's say there's an issue. I want you guys to be able to know how to confidently operate the aircraft without the aircraft flying itself. So that's why we go into stuff, and there's programming we can do and all kinds of stuff that can make it easier or harder on you to fly, depending on what you're looking to accomplish. And when I say what you're looking to accomplish, I'm meaning the data you're trying to capture. Again, this is all revolving around us going out and trying to capture information. Up in the top right corner, what do you see wrong with that?
It's nighttime.
What's that?
It's gonna be nighttime.
It's nighttime? Okay, that's a good consideration. What else? It's behind her. Good job. Yeah. So, I mean, I got to take the picture at face value, but she's got her face shoved in a camera screen over here, and they have, you know, that's a pretty powerful aircraft right, I don't know how far, maybe 20, 30 feet back behind her, but she's got her back completely turned to it. I mean, that's just, I get it, you know, you get confident and you know what's going on, and because of the sun and whatever, you have this camera screen turned a certain direction so you can see it, but those are all considerations we want to look out for, because that's definitely a situation we don't want to put you guys in. What to do in an emergency? I think we went over this real quickly as well. Essentially, number one thing is as soon as you know that there's an issue with the aircraft and it's crashing and it's inevitable, I'm not saying, this isn't saying ditch the aircraft, that's a different consideration. Ditch the aircraft would mean like, I'm just gonna pull the throttle off and let the aircraft go crash. No, we want you to try and fly it and recover it as much as you can. But once it's inevitable that it crashed, we want to make sure, this is the number one consideration right here, is that you turn the throttle off, okay? Most of the aircraft will kind of do it for you on a lot of different levels, but this, I want to see this throttle stick at a 0 position anytime you guys are not flying it, and I will yell at you for not doing that, okay? Because that's a big safety concern. It's just going to take your brain a little while to get that under control, but you'll figure it all out. Other things we talked about, you know, keeping your distance. We're going to have spotters involved. The spotter's job is always to maintain eye contact with the aircraft at all times. And then when in doubt, you know, just remember that it's better to be safe than sorry on all this stuff. If there is a crash, let's make sure we grab our safety equipment and have that at the ready just in case there's a fire. And then secure the crash area, just meaning, you know, it doesn't have to be like anything official, but just like that lady went and grabbed the Inspire there earlier, just give it a minute, make sure there's no bystanders, because people always do this. Like, I've seen it a ton of times where like something happens and everybody, if you're in a public area, people all want to come in and see it. So make sure we keep people out of that environment so we know what's going on. And then what essentially the main thing we want to do is pull the battery out and depower that aircraft. That's once it's safe. That's going to be our goal. So we're talking about some advanced features of the aircraft. Again, all stuff you're going to learn. And unfortunately, there's a bunch of acronyms, but you'll figure it all out. You guys all know what GPS is. IOC is Intelligent Orientation Control. That's a feature that's available in a lot of the multi-rotor aircraft. And we'll go into that in more detail later. POI is Point of Interest. Another detail, or mainly, you can do it in some of the fixed-wing aircraft, but also in multi-rotor. And essentially what that does is it helps you designate a point that you have of interest, and the aircraft will actually fly an orbit around that point. So you can kind of like take your hands off for a minute and just let the aircraft do the work depending on what you need. Return to home, that's a fail-safe feature we talked about earlier, where the aircraft actually comes back to a designated point that you've given the aircraft. And then the fail-safe parameters, there's different ways of fail-safe. Like I told you, there's just land right now, that's a fail-safe. There's come home and land. There's altitudes that you can change when it comes home. Because let's say you're, flying and there's trees in the way between you and me. Most of the time it's going to come like straight line back to you. Well, you want to make sure it's going to go up and over the trees. So you want to designate, hey, come home at 150 feet over my head and then drop back down, so you don't hit any trees. So all of these things are stuff that in the programming of the computer or of the aircraft we'll designate, and we'll run through it. A lot of the basic units that you guys are going to fly, to learn from, they don't have any of this crap. So it's not available. But the more advanced stuff is all available.
You know those guys, Todd?
I've met them, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Roswell guys. Yeah, they're funny. Oh, there we go. So that slide was on efficiency. The other part of my experiences with all of this stuff is we have limited time to gather the data that we want. In all reality, as you guys are pretty well aware of, and you're probably sick of it now, you're like, shit, I just want to go fly this stuff and learn how to fly. And we're having to deal with all this stuff beforehand. So there's a lot of build-up to the actual data gathering mission. And in all reality, for a lot of the missions that we're going to be doing, the actual operations of the aircraft being in the air is pretty minimal compared to all the other crap we got to do. I think Sean could attest to that on many different levels. Is with this stuff, the data is gathered fairly quickly from the aircraft. But that being said, because of time and resources, we may only have 6-8 batteries lined up for a piece of equipment. And once you're out of those batteries for the day, I mean, you may not be at a location where you can charge things up or whatever. So that's what you got to collect your data. So we want to make sure we know everything that we need to collect and what our goal is. And I just told you earlier about flying something up and not having the camera on. You just wasted the battery. Now you got 5 batteries to get the same amount of data that you want. And there's all things about efficiency. I can't tell. I used to. A long time ago, before the FAA got all involved, I did some flying for hire, and so people would pay me to go and operate equipment. And my number one pet peeve was not having things laid out to the point where I would go and I would get a picture or whatever they wanted, and then they'd spend 4 minutes deciding what the next thing they wanted. And my battery's dying. I'm losing time. And if I bring it down and land it and take it back off, yeah, I might not lose 4 minutes, but I'll probably lose 2 minutes. So, but if we're efficient, we go, hey, we need to go over there, we need to assess that stream, and as soon as we're done with that, we're going to come over here and we're going to do this, and I can get 2 passes with 1 battery. Great. That's just going to go so much further in your data collection. So it's stuff that you're going to learn inevitably, because I guarantee you it's going to happen. You're going to go, oh crap, I should have done better and known where I wanted to fly or whatever. But I'm just hoping that some of this stuff I teach you now, later when you utilize it, you'll remember it and then it'll be better. Here's another kind of funny one. So tell me what you think happened here. Actually, there's a few things. So again, I can see it's a Phantom. Okay, so what do you guys think happened there? And this is speculation, but go ahead.
I was going back to land and it was running out of battery, and I didn't know that there was an obstacle in front
Sure.
of it, and just ran right into it.
I think you're exactly right. And the reason I say that is because one, I've flown a Phantom for a long time and I know how it operates. But watch, all of a sudden you'll see the arm. See how it's just flying nice and smooth, and then watch all of a sudden you'll see the arm go doosh, like really fast. Okay, so that right there to me is that's what tells me that it hit failsafe and it's going, oh crap, I gotta go home. And because normally, I mean, yeah, you can do that on your own by just hammering the sticks really hard and pressing forward on the elevator, but the reality is I think it went into a fail-safe mode and it was trying to say, hey, I'm going to get myself home, but it has this big-ass rock in the way. So anyways, that one's another funny one. There's efficiency stuff, all stuff I just talked to you about, staying organized, pre-fly the area, check the weather. When we talk about weather, it's not only weather that we can look at for tomorrow, but we can also go back like last year. I can, if it's a big trip and we're going to spend, I'm sure Sean does this on stuff. I do it too. Like we have a lot of invested in going and collecting data somewhere. Well, let's not just preemptively look forward. Let's look back. There's history that can tell us, yeah, you're going to go and it's going to rain every afternoon. And we'll know, hey, we got to get our flights done in the morning. landing and powering down, pretty much just the opposite of taking off, but we want to make sure that there's a sequence that we're going to utilize, and this is going to go into our checklist, and it's going to be pounded into your head over and over again. And it's all, again, about safety, essentially making sure that we're not going up to that aircraft right there and trying to pull the battery, turn the battery off with those props spinning. We want to make sure that that's all ready to go. Lipo fires, storage, yeah, key. The school, you know, it's making, we have arrangements to keep these things in a safe location, but they have some dangers with them. And if you ever see like a battery like this, to me, I would assume that battery's been in a crash somewhere. I didn't take that photo, but that's a done battery. Like even if it, you know, all these, every time you have these batteries, even if they're look damaged and whatever, if you plug them in, they're gonna power your aircraft. They still work, but you don't want to ever fly with one of these. Or and to be honest, this is a ticking time bomb. That's literally what it is. I had a guy in a class, and I guess it's probably it's my fault. I guess I scared. He got so scared. He just bought like $10,000. He was starting a business. He bought all this, and he had his wife back home with all these batteries. So he caught me and he ordered all these bags. I use a lot of these Failsafe bags. Essentially, they're just fiberglass bags that they just slow down the fire. So you put your batteries in there, and then when it catches fire, it's kind of like you know, drywall or different fire safety devices that just essentially doesn't allow it to spread quickly. But that being said, a lot of the batteries that we use nowadays, they're at a level, yeah, those Lipo bags work great for little small Lipos, but if you put some of the ones that we have, the bigger ones, they're still going to burn right through it. It's just going to give you a little bit more time to get that thing outside and get it away from it. The major issue that we all have is, what do we all do? We store, what you take a battery and where do you put it? What's that?
All our batteries are
Together, exactly. That's the issue, is that you might have one bad apple, but it's right next to all the other good apples, and they don't care. Once one goes, they all go, and now you have a huge problem. So that's a big consideration. I try and store, you know, in multiple bags as much as I can. I use ammo crates. I think this school, we're working on something kind of like a battery bunker, which is in a location that essentially, hey, if it catches fire, it's outside. You know, it's going to make a bunch of smoke and probably blacken some stuff up, but it's not going to light the world on fire. So I think Sean and I are still working on some of that stuff.
So right now we have them in fire cabinets, in the rated fire cabinets, but we really want to convert that just to be the batteries that we're using, say, in here to test stuff, and have our main storage out away from any building.
And what I'll do too is I'll see some of those little batteries, because that's the other thing. You guys might look at some of these really tiny micro batteries and be like, no big deal. And I think we could probably do it in a lab setting and light one up for you guys, and you'll see how just that little itty bitty battery, I mean, it could light your house on fire, no problem. So just something that, I'm not trying to scare you guys, just trying to consider it.
Just want to add a caveat, that safety caveat. Because these come with proprietary battery connectors, Deans, JST, XT60s, they're expensive, and you may not have time right now to desolder that and reuse it. That battery is still live like a hand grenade. Don't just grab a pair of side cutters, cut the connector off. That's an instant catastrophic condition. And that battery will go just like that in that bag, right in front of your face.
Yeah, so what are you
That
saying?
happened in our shop twice with guys.
Oh, really?
Decide they're gonna, battery's dead, I'm just gonna cut the ends off and salvage the connector. Whoa.
Yeah, so there's a positive and a negative.
Yes. Just use caution. One wire individual. Don't cut across. You see the balance cable as well? A lot of guys want to save those and use them for something else. Straight across is the same dead short.
Yeah, because
all cells won't blow at once on that one, but the two main power leads.
Sure, no, that's a good consideration. I've definitely done it before. The battery didn't catch fire, but I've popped myself a couple times, and I'm like, oh crap, I just wasn't paying attention. So that's a good consideration. Here is, oh, you know what? There was supposed to be a video in here. Maybe it's at the very end. Hang on one second. Nope. I don't know where the video went. Anyways, it was a video of a Lipo fire. I thought it was right here, but maybe it's not. And I'll get you a video of a Lipo fire so that you guys can see it. But it's very violent, and it creates a lot of smoke. It makes noise, and yeah. What I would suggest, if we have any fires, just let everybody know. Go ahead.
I don't know if you're aware of the neutralization of Lipo. It's gone.
With the solution.
It's just basic 2.5 gallons of water and
Yeah.
salt. Just take that 5-gallon bucket around, or damp, wet sand that you can immerse it, or those ceramic flower pots. You get them big enough to just cover the battery to keep it from thermal sparks on the surrounding area.
Cool.
Yeah, and so if we have any bad batteries, we want to know about them, and then we'll dispose of them properly. Even we could do, some of those methods to dispose of them, or there's places we can take them to, and they'll dispose of them for us, and they do all that. So those are definitely battery safety is definitely key.
If you do bolt them, trim the ends and cover the connectors, and then weigh them and put that weight on the outside of the box and identify it as lithium-ion, lithium polymer. There's almost all batteries, recycling places will pick them up for free, but they just want to know what that is.
Sure. Yeah, Batteries Plus is where I drop mine off, but on large quantities, I don't. There's other places that do. I mean, if you have a couple batteries, they'll take them. I don't know if you could drop a whole.
So
ton
we
of
take.
them.
So university here takes them. So if we just have one or two, it's probably easier just to take them to. There's the Battery Plus right over there, but that's part of our what you guys pay for. It's hazardous waste disposal basically.
Sure. And the last thing I'll talk about with batteries is charging and discharging of the batteries. So we talked a lot about physical damage, like actually looking at a battery and saying, hey, this thing's messed up, but the way we charge and discharge batteries can have a big effect on the longevity of the battery. So how long is it going to last? And the reality is, some of these smaller units or these little batteries that are, $5, $8, it's not as big a deal. But when we're using some of the bigger equipment in the planes like that, some of the batteries can be $50, $60, $100, and we want those to last as long as possible. The other thing is based upon how we charge and discharge those batteries, we can actually potentially put those batteries at risk for a fire. They're temperamental on a lot of different levels, and we'll kind of go through that. That being said, I know there's kind of like tons and tons of caveats. A lot of the bigger multi-rotor systems, especially like DJI, which we're going to be utilizing, they have these smart batteries, and they essentially manage themselves for all considerations. You essentially plug them in, you charge them, they tell you when they're done, you run them, and then they stop at a certain level, which supposed to make sure you don't discharge them to a certain level that's bad for them, because you can actually, the old style batteries, you used to run them till like they were completely dead and there was nothing left in them, and you charge them back up. It's not how we do Lipo batteries. I run mine normally to 50%, but you can bring them down a little more than that. 70% is actually, it just depends on the battery and what you're up to. Because if you bring them down to a certain level, one, the longevity of the battery goes down, and then two, based upon different constructions of the batteries, when you charge it back up, we may be putting that battery in a position to catch fire. We obviously don't want that. But yeah, does anyone have any questions about stuff I've gone over thus far? Just anything at all, like doesn't even have to be certain pertaining to this. Go ahead.
I know with like cell phones and other like cordless power tools and whatnot, you're supposed to run the batteries completely dead before you recharge it, so the battery gets a full charge. Like why are those different than others?
I'm assuming based upon what you're talking about, it's a different battery construction. So the Lipo batteries, you're not able to, and in your cell phone, the cell phones are smarter than you. So essentially the cell phone's managing, when it says 0 battery on your cell phone, I think that lithium polymer battery that's in there, it actually has battery power still left in it. It's just, it's cut it off so that you don't get to a critical level. And so yeah, but yeah, that was the old way we used to operate batteries, is because they would get a memory, they would call it, and we want to make sure that we get the biggest charge out of the battery. We would drain it all the way down and we charge it all the way up. But with these lithium polymer batteries, we're no longer going to do that. And the way you can tell a lithium polymer battery, the quick and easy way, is one, it should say on it, it's going to say Lipo or lithium polymer, so that's that you just read the damn label. But the other part is most of them are in square construction. You're not going to see anything round, very rarely. And when they're, do we have some? I don't know, not the Inspire ones, but like the 3DR stuff. When you hold them, they have like a almost like a plastic covering over them. That's this stuff right here, and you can. It's just like it's like a heat shrink that they put on top of it. And then if you look at the front or the back of the battery, you'll actually see like individual little packs.
Wait, little ones. You want little ones?
Whatever, it doesn't matter. No, that blue one, is that a blue?
No, it's not. It's not. I thought it was
Yeah, so I'll pass.
So is the lithium ion the same as the lithium polymer?
It's similar, it's just a little bit different construction.